started.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Up on Toppenish. I'm your host, Sean Davido, and I'm joined by Mayor Elpidia Saavedra from Toppenish. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it.
Now, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff going on in Toppenish. One of the first things we want to talk about is the recent elections. You were re-elected as one of the Toppenish council members. Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's not always an easy job. What made you want to run again and be part of the Toppenish City Council?
You know, to be honest, I was actually thinking this was going to be my last term. However, this past year has been extremely exciting with the opportunities that we have had and the opportunities that I've been given to represent our city on the federal level and also the state level, and just to see the outcomes of those grant applications that we were able to get approved. And I'm really excited about just continuing to work for the city of Toppenish. It's something that I do from the love of my heart, and because I felt like there were still some pending important opportunities, I decided that it would be good for the city just to continue there.
Now, what does it take? Like I said, it's challenging sometimes to be an elected official. What do you think people need to know about serving in local government?
I think it should be when a person is in government, their attitude should be one of servant leadership. It's extremely important that people understand that, especially local governments, it's not about trying to steal the spotlight for oneself, but to be looking at the overall issues and challenges and needs of the city and how our decisions are going to be impactful for everyone and beneficial for everyone. And so I think if people do that and they come in with the right heart, then they'll be okay. If they're coming in just to try to steal the spotlight and try to get a name out there for themselves, it's going to be really difficult to really get anything done. And initially, when I first ran, I thought, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to change the rules. I'm going to reduce taxes. But as I began to learn more and more about local governments, about the budgets, especially about how cities bring in revenue, things really started to change very, very quickly. And then at the end of the day, I realized as well that it is not just what I think or believe, but at the end of the day, what codifies a decision, what makes it law, is the decision of the council as a whole. And so we do have an opportunity to share our independent views of things, to support or not to support. But at the end of the day, when the council makes a decision, we have to stand by that. And so it really is a team effort.
How many terms have you gone through? This is your third?
It's my second term. Yeah, the end of
Okay.
my second term, which is 8 years.
8 years. Has it
Yeah.
changed since you've been in? Have you noticed a change? We have more social media. There's more of that. There's more of the interaction with people
Right,
can
with
throw
the-
stones pretty easily
Yes,
sometimes.
yes.
Can you talk about any of the change that you've seen in that?
You know, I love to say that we have been able to build a really strong administrative team, and also every single person that works for the city of Toppenish right now, currently, they are stretched thin. Especially with last year's budget and trying to balance that, we made quite a few cuts. We had to consolidate some departments. We had to get rid of some positions. And I feel like over the years, we have been able to grow that. And we've also been able to have a full department, police department. And now we have all the officers that we are able to have on staff. Those have been real positive changes. When I first came on, the very first year, I think we only had like 3 police officers. And that was really the platform that I ran on, was public safety. For me, public safety is extremely important. And also for the sake of just trying to improve the city as a whole. There has been some great changes and positive outcomes, but at the same time, some of the challenges that we have had for decades are still very much present. It's always a challenge to get enough revenue to support the city services, let alone the non-essential services that people like to have. And so I think there's still a lot of work to be done, but it has to come from the sense of wanting to serve the city from our heart, not necessarily for our own personal gains.
Yeah. Let's talk about your the mayor. So you are the mayor. You
Yes.
serve as the mayor. The council selects you as the mayor. Talk a little bit about that's coming up again in 2026.
It is, yeah.
How does the mayor get selected? You're only one of 7 council members, but you do
Yeah.
serve as mayor.
Well, I'm so glad that you asked that because there is a lot of misinformation out there, and I want to set the record straight. Speaking to the camera, whichever it is, right? I want to set the record straight. So the position of the mayor is not an elected position. I am not elected into this position. We are appointed by the council as a whole, and that appointing happens every 2 years. So it will come up again in 2026, and that's usually done at the very first meeting. Now, the position of the mayor is not one that is lucrative. Okay, so for me personally, because of the amount of time I have volunteered for the city, it's really cost me a financial loss. However, again, here we have a heart of servitude, right? For me, it's been okay because I have seen the benefit that the city is now reaping because of the time that I've been able to provide for the city. Now, having that title as a mayor just comes with more responsibility. There are some things that I have to be very proactive in, provide my time, provide my service, and then also just to try to be a positive representation for the city. And sometimes that's hard because at times when we are providing truth, sometimes people don't like to hear that. And the very first person to get mentioned in a negative light sometimes is the mayor. And unfortunately, it's not something that a lot of people are aware of, that I don't have the final say. I don't have a magic pen where I can just make decisions single-handedly. It's, again, the decisions are made as one body from the entire council. And I have the responsibility of chairing meetings, so ensuring that the meetings run smoothly, that we are going through the agenda properly. But overall, it's not something that's, at least not in our city, something that is really a personal gain, in my opinion. Also, the mayor only gets $50 more a month than the other council members. And, I'm not making $80,000 a year being the mayor of the city of Toppenish, like some people were reporting, actually. It's very, very limited. And so, again, it's something that I'm doing from just the love for the city, but it's really important for people to understand the differences in those positions and our responsibilities, because I think even as a mayor of City Toppenish, I take that very seriously, because wherever it is that I'm at and when I'm out there speaking for the community, I have to ensure that it is something that I'm doing as a spokesperson for the city as a whole and not for myself.
And it's not a full-time job. It's a very much a part-time job, a couple meetings a month, but you still do a lot of extra work for the city. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of that. The council has addressed some important public safety and public health infrastructure issues with our wastewater treatment plant and the temporary police facility. And you have actually worked with our state and federal legislature and lawmakers to move these projects forward, and got significant amount of work done in the last year.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and some of the work you've done there?
Well, I'm looking forward to it for this coming year. I'm really hoping that I'll have an opportunity to then be able to represent the city and also speak with not only our state legislators, which right now currently I'm working on the day that I'm going to be going to Olympia to meet with our state legislators, but also to be able to represent the city in Washington, D.C. Yeah. Like you mentioned, there has been some great outcomes from the meetings that I've been able to have with congressmen and senators about the city of Toppenish and our needs. We were able to get about $2 million, something that hasn't been done in the past. And then also there's $1 million right now pending with Cantwell. She has allocated some, and we're hoping that is also approved and goes through with this the federal budget that's just kind of stalling there a little bit. But we're always hopeful. But those kind of things have been very, very beneficial for our city. And I think as long as we continue to move forward and making those connections, collaborating, building those relationships, especially with like local legislative aides and federal legislative aides, I didn't realize how important that was. It is important for people on the federal level and also on the state level to know about our city and our needs, because that's really how our needs get earmarked in the budgets and also the future budgets. You know, we need some long-term sustainability when it comes to finances, and that's really what we're trying to focus on, is trying to find ways so that the legislators will continue to think about us and continue to think about our needs for the long run, not just short term.
And the way to do that sometimes is to go and be face to face with them, to send a representative like yourself to say, hey, Toppenish is important and we need these for our communities.
Oh, absolutely. You know, when I went to the U.S. Capitol and I was meeting with the aides there, the senators' aides and the congressmen's aide, and I was speaking to them, they were really surprised that it had been the first time that our city had sent someone to meet with them in person. And they did stress that. They said it makes a world of difference. We have seen the benefit now, especially this year, and I'm hoping that we're going to be able to capitalize on what's been planted this year. We're going to be able to continue to see the fruits of that in the future.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about there's always the challenge with the budget. 2026 budget has just gone through. There's always challenges. There was challenges in 2025. What are some of the challenges that you see for 2026 and even beyond?
Well, unfortunately, our city really struggles with revenue. Our revenue sources are very, very limited, and the costs continue to rise every single year. It's like with everything else. Look at the cost of fuel right now. Look at the cost of electricity, right? Everything continues to go up, and it's the same for cities. People think that cities are automatically given money from the feds or the state, and that's just not the case. Many cities are primarily dependent on their residents. Like the money that we get to operate the city comes from our residents primarily. And so every year we're having to take all of those things into consideration, our revenue, our expenses, and then we have to forecast, okay, how much money are we thinking we're going to need to get us through the end of the year. In the past, there hasn't been enough of sustainability. And so as a result, especially with the information that our finance director has shared, the trend has been showing that we were always going to be in the deficit. So basically that means we weren't going to be having enough money to cover the expenses of the city. And so when we're looking at those things, it's really important that legally we're meeting the obligations that we're required to meet. As long as we are meeting those essential services, then we can look at the other services that we want to provide that may also need some attention, but maybe aren't as fixed costs.
I just want to touch on the status of the pool. Where are we with the Toppenish pool?
Okay, you're right. So the Metropolitan Park District was a levy that we had in the November ballot last year, and it did not pass. Right. And it was unfortunate because that would have allowed us to keep the pool in operation for, and I believe those levies are for like 4 years. Mm-hmm. And so we would have been able to continue to have our swimming pool open for 4 years. And it didn't pass. And so as a result, we had to make the very difficult decision to not have the swimming pool open for this year. The swimming pool issue is something that is dear and near to my heart. And although at the time, at this very moment, we are focusing on the budget and we're looking at these very critical needs that the city has as far as balancing our budget, that the pool is something that we're going to continue to look at in the next coming year. I'm really hoping that we will be able to find the funding necessary in order to have it open for this coming year. And if not, then there's other potential opportunities. For example, converting it into a splash pad, or maybe collaborating with local groups to see how they can help support. One of the councilmen had said, well, maybe we can look at putting the Metropolitan Park District back on a levy again after. And so there's always potential opportunities, and I think it's really important for people to know that we're going to continue to move forward and see what we can do for that.
And continue to look at options and what's best for the residents of Toppenish.
Absolutely.
Okay. What are some of the priorities that you think are important for the future? 2026 beyond, what do you think is the important things that Toppenish needs to focus on?
Revenue generation. Internally, I would love to see economic development within our city. It's extremely important, and I really feel I have to touch base on here. Whenever the city has businesses, the businesses pay, for example, a business tax, right? And whenever they have sales, the city also gets a very small portion of that, and so it goes to help the city sustain the services and maybe even have pay for non-essential services like the swimming pool, parks and recs. Maybe have more people out at the cemetery. I know we've heard people also concerned about the cemetery grounds, and I would love to see the city have more money to be able to address those things, to have for street maintenance, to have for potholes, to have for graffiti removal. But the truth of the matter is that we are just so limited. We don't have enough money. And whenever we're looking at budgeting, I always think about my own personal budget at home. There are needs that I absolutely have to have. I have to pay my mortgage. I have to pay my car payment. I have to pay the electric bill. I have to pay the, the utilities of the city. All of those things need to be covered. Do I need to have Wi-Fi? No, not necessarily. Do I have to pay for the newspaper being delivered? No. So, when there just isn't enough money, some cuts are required. For this coming year, my hope is that we will continue to work with state and federal legislators to secure long-term funding for our priority projects. For example, our wastewater treatment plant. That is a project that's going to cost us up to $20 million to get completely up and running in order for us to have everything updated, right, the way it's needed, and also to prevent any other things falling apart, failures, which can then turn around and cost our city money if we start getting fined. But so long-term sustainability is extremely important for our city. Also, economic development is extremely important for our city. And I would encourage the residents to be collaborators and also to be initiators. And so if there's areas that they can help the city with, then I would encourage them to do that, because again, each elected representative is there to represent them. So whenever we're making decisions, especially something that I consider is, how is this going to benefit the city as a whole? Not how will it benefit a small group of people, right, or how will this benefit me, right? Because I can sit out there and basically say whatever it is people want to hear come out of my mouth that's going to make me sound great, right? Because then everybody will love me. But the reality is that it would be very fiscally irresponsible of me to say we absolutely must have this or absolutely must have that when we just don't have the money to do that. And at the end of the day, the decisions that we're making has to be for the benefit of everyone that lives within our city.
That's really good information. And I love to listen to your passion and how you talk about our community and how much you care about it. You've given several messages. What is the one thing that you would like to tell residents of Toppenish as a council member, as a fellow resident? What would you like to tell your fellow community members?
I think it's important for people to understand that I personally have zero personal gains or benefits from being on the city council. I give a lot of my personal time and also finances to be able to serve the city of Toppenish. But that doesn't just go for me. There's other people on the council. For example, our mayor pro temp, he is the senior council member. He has been on the city for decades, and he's done it because he loves the city. And it's really important for people to understand that every single person serving on the city council loves the city of Toppenish. That's why we're there. We're not there because we're making a lot of money. We're not there because we want to upset residents by the decisions that we're making. We're not there because there's some sort of a personal gain from that. We're really there because we believe that if there's a piece of knowledge that I have or that they have, that together we may be able to advance further and look out for the long-term interests of the city of Toppenish. I just wanted to thank you again for your work and for everything that you do for the city of Toppenish.
I appreciate that very
Yeah.
much. All right. And thank you all for joining us today.